Miss Fortune is the hottest ADC on the block right now. Lethality build makes her exceptional both in competitive and in solo queue. As someone who played a lot of Crit MF in the previous season, I decided to jump onto the hype train. However, I quickly learned that Lethality MF is entirely different. I needed a hero to teach me, and he arrived. EDG Viper is one of the best ADC players in the world as of right now. However, more important to us is that of all world's ADCs, he has the best results in the Europe West solo queue. Because of it, I decided to use him as my role model. The first thing that catches your eye is that Viper has an incredibly dominant laning phase style with Miss Fortune. I genuinely believe that it is this aggression that allows him to dominate solo queue games. To make this playstyle possible, Viper uses very aggressive runes. Using this exact rune page is very important, because it allows you to out-trade every ADC in the game. Think about it this way. The idea behind Lethality build to get an advantage early and snowball the game. What does this rune page do? It gives you maximum early damage possible, it gives you a lot of sustain, and it saves you money with magical footwear. Though, I have to mention that some ADCs prefer Gathering Storm and Cosmic Insight. So, we established that with MF you're a lane bully, and you should play as such. However, remember that your bullying comes from poke and short trades rather than extended trades. Level 6 doesn't change much for you. Although, you gain the ability to follow up your relentless aggression with deadly all-in through your ultimate. With all that being said, let's outline lane goals for Miss Fortune. Focus on farm. When you don't have minions to last hit, look to trade with Q, auto-attack Q, or simply auto-attack with love type. If opponents attempt to force an all-in, use E, auto-attack, Q combo and back off. After you get your level 6, you should be ready to follow teammates' crowd control with your ER damage. Let's take a look at in-game examples from Viper. Here, we saw Viper executing a perfect trade. He used Q onto Aphelios and immediately backed off. Don't constrain yourself to only use a Q on minions that will die from it, especially if you still need to stack mana flow band. Another dream trade from Viper. Q on both opponents and immediately back off. When Aphelios started to attack Seraphine, Viper went for a quick auto attack and backed off again. Sadly, Aphelios was ready for this and had little tempo going, so he auto attacked Viper back. However, because MF had her passive, this trade was still favorable. In this one trade, we saw an example of Q poke and auto attack with glove tap poke. Great example of an auto attack Q trade. As you can see, this trading pattern takes a bit more time than others. Use it wisely. If the minion wave is coming to you, you probably should stick to quicker trading patterns. However, if the minion wave is pushing from you, like in this example, using auto attack Q is better because of its higher damage output. Let's quickly talk about your E. First of all, if someone wants to all-in you, use E and run away. Secondly, Viper often uses his E to stack mana flow band. Your goal is to stack it before your first recall. Don't worry, cookies will help you with mana sustain. However, don't forget that using E leaves you without an additional escape tool. So, use it only if you are near your tower or if you are the one pushing the minion wave. If both you and your opponent play well, you end up in a situation like this. Both duos are low on HP, but you are the one with the control over the minion wave. In this game, opponents tried to go for a Hail Mary play and made the situation worse. If your opponents refuse to intentionally feed, you can either call your jungler and dive them anyway, or simply recall. Another example of exceptional make a train usage. Aphelios tries to force an extended trade, in hopes of breaking the freeze. Initially, Viper answers with E and backs off. However, he notices that his support landed all of his abilities, so he comes back for a few auto attacks. These few auto attacks deal an insane amount of damage, so Viper decided to go for an all-in. The reason this fight went so well is that Viper was so much ahead of Aphelios. Yet, he did step back after each auto attack, despite his advantage. This is because his initial intention was to go for a short trade and back off. The final example of proper make a train usage. Viper is a whole item ahead of his opponent. Usually, it means that he can one-shot his opponent with an ER combo. In the laning goals section, we've talked about following teammates' crowd control with this combo. This is a safer way, and it's better when you're in equal state with your opponent. Though, when you're so much ahead, you can use your E to force plays by yourself. Here, E used to land R damage, and to make it easier for Seraphine to land abilities. Don't forget to ping your support in advance that you are going to do your combo. In this game, Lee Sin noticed that Viper was miles ahead of his laning opponent, so he ganked both twice and let Viper get out of the laning phase. There is a high chance that the jungler in your games won't understand that he needs to do the same. Try pinging him to gank your lane, and, regardless of his reaction, keep working on the laning goals. Poke the opponents and go for the all-in. The most important thing is to not be afraid of using the ER combo. Test your damage, and eventually you will learn your lethal thresholds. Alright, the laning phase has ended. Hopefully you won it just like Viper did. Regardless of it, your mid-game plan as a DC is the same. Your main goal is to take care of the mid lane push. This is because whoever controls the mid lane push controls the mid game. You can catch side lane waves, but you need to be smart about it. You can't miss out on team fights. Here, Viper got into a weird situation. He wants to farm in the mid lane, but he also sees a chance of a random fight in the top lane. Viper decides to awkwardly walk through the jungle towards the mid lane. In the end, he notices that Cassiopeia pushed the mid wave and teleporting top. Not having minions to farm in the mid lane allows Viper to come top and impact the fight with his ultimate. Immediately after, he runs back to accomplish his main mid-game goal, have mid lane wave pushed. After you push the mid wave, you have to choose one of the four options. Help your team in the fight or on the objective, invade opponent's jungle to get deep vision and steal their camps, rotate towards side lane to pick up free farm if your team doesn't want it, recall and buy an item. Immediately after, you go back to pushing the mid wave and repeat the script. One crucial thing about our plan is to not overforce. We should always be in a safe place. This means that if we don't have vision or teammates nearby, we shouldn't push the mid wave. We can't just let it come to us. We can't afford to die during the rotations or in the teamfights too. Our mid-game goal as ADC is to get as much farm as possible, and dying equals losing 2 or 3 waves of minions. As you saw in the background clips, Viper failed to do this. One last example of the mid-game playstyle before we move to the teamfighting section. Viper sees that mid lane is already pushed. Viper also sees that Dragon and Herald aren't on the map, and he has a free farm at the top lane. He goes top, farms 2 waves, because it's safe due to him being near the tower and his jungle being warded. However, Viper doesn't farm the 3rd wave, because Viper doesn't know where Kha'Zix and Yone are, and these two will win 2v2 against Miss Fortune and Seraphine. Viper takes golems instead, but when he sees Yone, he immediately goes back to farming top lane. This is because he understands that he can be ganked only by Kha'Zix. It is unlikely that Kha'Zix will be able to 1v2 Miss Fortune and Seraphine. I'm sure that if Viper was alone and hadn't any wards in the river, he would have gone to the mid lane instead. It is better to give up 1 or 2 minion waves if it's not safe to farm them. The most crucial thing for DC in the teamfight is to be in a safe spot. In general, during the teamfights, safety is more important than dealing damage for the ADC. This is why we see Viper running from the Baron to the safe spot even before his team finished the objective. Sometimes your team will get what they came for, sometimes they don't. Regardless of the outcome, as long as you are alive, you can win the team fight for your team after the objective is gone, which is very important. To be sure that you won't die in the team fight, you need to highlight in your head what you should be scared of. Usually it is crowd control abilities and abilities with a lot of damage. Let's name what we should be scared in this game. Any Tibes, Yone ultimate, Yone 3rd Q, and Kha'Zix isolated damage. Keep attention to how Viper constantly keeps distance from the top mid duo, and how Viper instantly runs towards his team when Kha'Zix jumps in. Here we get into a crucial moment of every team fight. It's a moment when we need to look at the state of both teams and decide, is it the time for us to go in and clean up the house? In this concrete situation, opponents already spent dangerous abilities, and Kha'Zix is basically out of the fight. However, 2 teammates are dead, we got what we came for, and the most opponents are at full HP. Also, the primary way of winning teamfights as Lethality MF is to get a multi-man ultimate, and it's unlikely we will get it here. Viper decides to disengage. One more teamfight to show you how good teamfights look like. The start of the teamfight is terrible. However, try to pause the video after the T-Boss landed and ask yourself, what abilities are still dangerous for Viper? You will come to a surprising conclusion. Jonas and Annie's ultimates are down. Kha'Zix can't isolate us. Aphelios' purple ultimate is down too. As long as Viper doesn't die, he can turn the fight around. This is what he does. Viper just mainly stands in the place and uses the ER combo that destroys everyone before they can get to him. Overall, Lethality Misfortune rewards good fundamentals and punishes bad ones. This makes Misfortune an excellent learning tool. High elo players will enjoy her early power spikes and lane power, while low elo players will like how simple and powerful her kit is. Please, leave your feedback in the comment section, help me improve my videos. Tell me what did you like and what you didn't like. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Good luck with your Misfortune ultimates.